This is exactly how real life works. Hello sewing fans and welcome back to my sewing universe. Today I came into my craft room and set out to make a leather bag, which I've never done before. And I thought, you know what, this would make a really good video. I just needed her to stop for a second because I want to tell you what this video is all about. I recorded everything months ago now, and what I wanted to do was just record the whole process of me trying to make something. So it's got mistakes in it, it's got a thinking process in it, and most of all it's a much longer video than normal because I wanted to truly reflect the whole process of when I'm trying to make something and I'm not making it from a pattern and I'm literally making it up. So that's why this is a longer video, and in fact I think I'm going to split it into 2 or maybe even 3 videos, but I hope it's helpful, hope it's interesting. You can let me know in the comments box and all of that stuff down below, and so I will let her get on and say a little bit more. Bag I want to make, I want to make myself a new handbag. I like to wear crossbody bags, and I've got some, I did a load of research on websites that I can't afford, and it turns out I quite like Marc Jacobs bags. They've got quite a nice satchel. I'll insert some pictures either here or both, I don't know, of the bag that I'm not copying it, I'm inspired by it. It was a bag that I liked the look of. I'm not trying to do a designer rip-off, it's just I liked some of the features. I don't have $500 to spend on a leather bag. What I have is leather that used to be a sofa cover. Yes, I had an old leather sofa that I got from eBay that I eventually decided was not going to be right for my house, so ripped the leather off it before it went to the tip because it had stood in the garage for long. It wasn't good enough to use as a piece of furniture anymore. So I have leather that used to be part of a sofa cover, which just is the colour that it is. It's this funny sort of cream colour, but I think it'll make an okay bag. I have made a practice bag out of black outlining, which is here. There we go, I'll step back. So that's the sort of, this is really crumpled. It doesn't, I wanted a stiff fabric to make the practice one out of, and this is stiff, but it doesn't fold and go soft in the way that I hope my leather bag will. But what you can see is it's kind of a sort of a rectangle. It has an oval shaped bottom. It has, don't have enough hands, it has a curved shape at the top here, which is what I planned, and it has a zip in the top there, and it has some D-rings here which I will then attach a handle to, and then I'll be able to wear it across my body. That is the plan. It won't stick out like that, that would look rather much flatter, and the strap will be able to come across here. So yeah, I did the practice version because I wanted, before I cut the leather, I've only got enough to cut it once, can't make any mistakes, so before I cut it I just wanted to make sure that the pattern that I had drafted was gonna pretty much come out, pretty much come out as I was hoping. I mean, it's still making it up as I go along, and we'll see. If it's rubbish I'll throw it in the bin. So the pattern, this is 1/4 of the side of the bag. Initially when I made the test version, you can see I deliberately put a seam here and I deliberately put a seam here. Now in the real version I've eliminated this seam, and just looking at it I think I've already made a mistake, because I think I meant to eliminate this seam. Never mind, I've done it now. Because when I was sewing it together I anticipated that here there's an intersection of quite a lot. There's this side of leather, there's the end of the zip, there's 2 layers of leather here, or there will be 2 layers of leather here, and I had anticipated that that would be quite difficult to sew. Thought I should eliminate the seam, came to do it, forgotten, and I've eliminated the wrong seam. Never mind. Done now. So we'll just have to see how that goes under the sewing machine. So let me show you what I have cut out and sewn so far. That is one side piece, and as you see, this is where I intended to have the seam. This is where I've managed to put the seam, which is, as you can see, up the tall part of the U. So that is where the handle is going to attach on one side. That's where the bag's going to dip down, and then when I sew the two sides together here, that is where the handle will attach on the other side. In the sample pictures there were diagonal zips, so that is what I am now starting to try and work out how to do. I've got a zip here. I inherited all these zips from someone else, so I've got a zip and I've got a welt pocket type opening that I have drawn on in pencil here. Things I've already learnt about working with leather. I cut the main part of this out with scissors. I didn't use my fabric scissors, I used the scissors that are quite sharp but that I normally use for patterns because I wasn't entirely sure what it would do to my fabric scissors and they're too precious to ruin. This bit I'm cutting with a scalpel and a metal ruler. So I've drawn it on in pencil. When I was drafting, or when I was cutting the other fabric pieces, I drew on with a Sharpie marker, which used green because I had it to hand. That was very effective to trace around the pattern pieces, but then I did have to cut inside the line because most of my seams are going to be exposed, or at least I need to plan for them to be exposed because I'm making this up as I go along. I know some of the edges of the leather, like here, are going to end up being visible on the bag, so I didn't want to leave any of where I'd drawn on with Sharpie visible after I'd cut it out. So it's a good method, but you do need to make sure if you've got any pieces you need to be accurate with, you're going to be cutting inside the line. And the same with the pencil. So I have cut this section already, and then I thought, actually I'm going to go and make a video. So I've cut that line. I'm now going to cut the other two lines just outside of the pencil. So I'm trying to line up the ruler. I hope I don't obscure your view, but I'm prioritising not cutting my own fingers off. So just outside that line. I'm trying to be super accurate because there's not going to be any seam around here. I'll explain in a second how I'm going to put the zip in. If you're interested in this tool, it is a non-surgical scalpel by Swan and Morton. Let's see if you can see that. Number 3 handle, number 10 blade. Got it off Amazon, can't remember how much it is. Bought it originally for paper cutting, but having a scalpel with interchangeable blades is really useful for all sorts of things because a new blade is super sharp. You also need to be careful because a new blade is super sharp. So I've cut that out, don't need that, that's rubbish now. So hopefully, if I've measured this right, this zip, my idea was this zip's going to go in there, like that. Woohoo, look! That's good, although actually I wanted the zipper tab to be the other way around. I'm thinking about taking this on holiday and I want to be able to put my passport in here, but I want to be able to zip it shut really. So when we're going through the airport I won't keep my passport in it all the time, but want to be able to make zipping it shut as easy as possible. So there's the end of that. That works well, doesn't it? Good. So basically, to secure the zip in, I'm just going to sew all the way around that rectangle. I am not going to be able to pin it in any way, shape or form because if you pin leather you leave holes in it. Normally I would use a clip, like a little bulldog clip, and normally if you're holding two seams together with leather you could use a clip like that, and that will hold the side of the leather, two pieces together. However, here there's nothing for me to clip it to, so I'm basically just going to have to hold it still under the machine. But before I sew that in, I need to get some pocket pieces to attach in here, like that I suppose, So I'm just going to stop the camera and have a little think about how to make those rectangles. There's my opening. This is the fabric I'm using to line the bag and the pocket. It's quilting cotton. So I'm going to lie that over the top. I can feel the opening there where I've cut it. That's one benefit of leather, it's very thick so you can feel the edges. And I can feel the edge of the bag here and the edge of the bag down here. It's not quite on camera, but I can feel it. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to cut a rectangle there initially, as big as possible, because it's better, got plenty of this fabric, it's better to cut it too big than too small. So that's one piece of the pocket bag. So that would get sewn like that, wouldn't it? Yeah, okay, yeah, there's how it will work. So we'll cut that diagonal off, that'll get sewn like that. And then I need another piece, which initially will get sewn and head off in that direction, but then it'll fold down when the zip's sewn in. Okay, I've got my two rectangles cut. I'm now going to line that up and use my trusty Sharpie marker again, because this is the pocket bag, it won't be seen on the outside, so I don't really care about whether I leave a mark or not. I'm going to put a line there, which, whoops, is supposed to be following the line of the opening underneath. I'm going to cut along there. No idea if it'll actually work. Then we need another piece that is going to go that way up, and that needs to follow the diagonal at the top part of the pocket lining. What I'm puzzling over is it needs to start facing that way, and then I need to fold it down, wrong side facing me, because then the right side is exposed inside the pocket. That's the line of the pocket. I think I might not cut the top bit. Might not cut that. Or what if I sew this to the zip outside the bag? What I'm trying to avoid is making messy stitching on the outside of the bag. I could sew those to the zip and then sew the zip. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do, because I can pin them like that. Right, we've got a plan, people. Okay, need some pins. So I went away and I used my overlocker or serger, depending on where you live in the world, to finish the edges of the cotton pocket linings to minimise fraying later. And now I'm going to pin this. I'm just folding the edge under so that there are no raw edges showing on the inside. Oh, well, not showing, because who's going to be staring inside my pocket, but no raw edges that can fray over the long term, because if this bag works out, it will get a lot of use. If it doesn't work out, it'll go in the bin, but if it works out, it will see a lot of action, as it were. So there's one. I'm just pinning, totally clear about this, I am not pinning to the leather, I'm only pinning to the fabric. I always have to test these things so many times when I'm making it up, because my my spatial awareness is rubbish. When things fold over and flip inside or outside and they don't end up the same orientation that they started, I get super confused. I'm easily confused. So there we go, that's pinned in. And what I've also done while you've been away, I want two pockets in this. I have two zips, so I've done a whole other, exactly the same as that. So now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine. I'm going to sew along there, I'm going to sew along there. Two straight lines of stitching with my zipper foot. Sewed across those two lines, really hard to see because the fabric's so busy. You can see it from this side. Totally didn't think it through because, pardon me, I've got a light coloured thread in the bobbin, which is really annoying because now, when you can tell I'm making this up, I'm not doing this specially pre-prepared for a video. This is exactly how real life works. Now when I put that in there, I'm going to have those light coloured threads showing. Just trying to decide whether I care enough to undo that stitching. I probably do. Okay, well when you do this, if you do this, pay attention to what colour thread is in your bobbin. I'm going to undo that and do it again. Okay, so there we go. I have sewn in the zips into my pocket bags. Of course, I managed to, let me think. So the first one went in perfectly, and then I looked at it and the bobbin thread was all the wrong colour. So I had to take that out. Then I pinned one of the bits of lining fabric the wrong way up. Nearly sewed it but didn't. Then I went to the machine to sew and did the first line with the new colour bobbin thread, but the grey, which I've been using for the seams on the leather, on the top, and the grey showed through. So then I didn't unpick that because I couldn't be bothered at that point. But I've also been trying to get closer to the edge. I've no idea if you're going to be able to see this. Been trying to get closer to the edge. That is such uneven stitching. So that this problem of it showing through will be also mitigated, not just because I've got a better matching colour of thread, but also because I hopefully have shifted it far enough apart that it's hidden by the leather now. Anyway, and then I didn't thread the bobbin quickly enough, properly, and so that was fun. Maybe I'll go back to bed today. Anyway, let's move on and see how we're going to get these pockets into the leather. I know I'm being far too mean on myself. It's a bad habit of mine. I should accept the fact that I'm making this up as I go along, and therefore it's not going to be perfect, Joanne. What do you expect? Right, so we have now got the zip attached to the lining, which means that hopefully we can do one line of stitching and it will catch the zipper tape. Make things flat, although I don't know why I'm bothering because I'm going to move it. It will catch the zipper tape, and because the pocket lining is already attached to the zip, it will also attach the lining. And so on the outside I only have that one line of stitching. I wish I could think of a way of holding that still, but I don't think there is one. I think it's just got to be held by hand. If you know a way, I would love to know. You can let me know, although of course it will be after I've finished the bag, but for next time and for other people. So if you know a way that I could hold this now temporarily, then let me know in the comments below. Thank you. Here we are at the machine. First of all, to say, in the machine I have got a leather needle, and there are loads of different kinds of needles, and when I began sewing I thought, oh well, to be honest I didn't even know there were different kinds of needles, but then when I became aware of it I realised, well, initially I just thought they were pointless, but actually as you sew different things, especially if you're sewing something like jeans or leather that really is very different to sewing fabric, then a special needle is helpful. I've got this fantastic little needle ABC that I got from my local sewing shop, and it tells me what's particularly special about a leather needle. It says it has a cutting point, an LL twist point, whatever that is, for easier penetration for leather, artificial leather and similar materials. So it is a size 90/14. 90, there's a European system and an American system. It's the thickness of the metal, and basically it has, I'm going to try and hold that, I have no idea what you can see of that, but if you were to compare that with another kind of needle, you'd find that it was particularly sharp, like it says, with a cutting point. So here we go, we're going to try sewing in this zip. I haven't tried filming at my sewing machine before, so I have no idea. You might go all juddery when I start sewing. So I'll take a bit of faffing around. because this is going to be top stitching, I'm doing it with the triple stitch setting on my machine, which is a setting that goes basically forwards, back, forwards, just testing where the needle is going to enter the fabric. I'm going to keep a sharp eye on this line here, and I'm going to line it up about in the centre of that part of my foot. That is my plan. So make sure the pocket bag lining is lying flat. I'm not going to sew that in an unfortunate way. I've had enough unpicking today. Right, okay, let's see if we can get this in straight. Okay, it's not moving forwards. Let's give it a bit of help. So triple stitch setting is actually quite common on machines, and it is super helpful. It basically goes forwards, back, forwards. It does every stitch 3 times. And it's great for top stitching. You don't have to use annoying thick top stitching thread, which always gets stuck in my machine. But you get a top stitching style finish. Keeps getting stuck. Come on, you know you want to. Oh, that was stuck. That stuck. Ironically, when I was sewing just the leather, although 2 thicknesses, it was fine. Okay, I'm going to move that zipper tab out of the way. Go on. There we go. I suspect that is not going to be the neatest sewing I've ever done. So I had to stop filming, not because I lost the will to live, I wasn't going very well on my machine. It was because the battery lost the will to live and I had to go and charge the camera. So I've got some pictures that I'll insert up here. So what have I done? I sewed the zips in. First one was a bit rubbish, but you only get 1 shot on leather because once you've sewn it you've put a load of holes in it, so undoing it doesn't really get you anywhere. So I did one and then I did the other, and let me just show you the results. Come off there, pussycat. So the result of number 1 was like that, and I was using the triple stitch on the machine, which just was getting really stuck underneath. I don't really know why, because it was fine when I did the initial seam, but it was. And so I missed some of the zipper tape, so what I did was zigzagged round, and it was, I don't know, may have been a poor choice. There's quite a few skipped stitches, and if that really bothers me, what I'm going to do is I will make a bit of binding or something and I'll actually glue it on to cover all of that up. But I don't know. Second one I did differently. In terms of the layout, it's the same, but I just used a single stitch. I have gone over it twice along the lengths and 3 or 4 times along the end section there, and it's a much neater job. So you learn as you go on with these. So then the photos I need to insert, I then moved on to having a look at sewing up the pockets, and I discovered that when I folded them down on top of each other there was a gap. So as you'll see from the photo, I've had to reinsert a little triangle of fabric, and I think on reflection, I can look at the photos on my phone here and you can look at them there, I would probably do the pocket lining out of all one piece and just cut out the rectangle that I needed to insert the zip, and fold back the corners and sew it on like that. I think if I did it again, that's what I would do. The other thing I did, actually, going back to sewing in the zip, the other thing I did differently on the second one was, I'll show you a picture here, I actually clipped, I was saying earlier I wasn't sure how to keep the zip still, and I'm still not sure how to keep the zip still, but I did partially solve that problem by clipping the pocket lining to the top and the bottom of the bag, which you'll see in the photo there, those little clips I showed you, I used that. And that definitely stopped it shifting around so much. I initially thought of doing that because when I'd sewn the first one, I was worried, constantly checking underneath the leather, I was worried that I was going to catch the lining in the wrong place, or it would get crumpled up and bunched up underneath. So that solved it, and it did hold things quite well. So that was a good improvement. So what I'm moving on to do now, this is also going to take a bit of working out, everything's taking a bit of working out, is getting the bottom, there's the oval shaped bottom, attached to the sides. The thing I'm most worried about in this is getting exactly the right circumference. So the oval has a certain circumference, the length around the whole outside, to match the side of the bag. So I have no pleats, I have no excess, but I have no I haven't got too little either. So I'm going to clip it all on with the clips now and see where that gets me to before I sew it. That's as far as this video goes. In the next video I will show you finishing the bag. So I hope you've enjoyed it and have found it interesting. If you've got any questions about the process, you can see I'm not an expert, but I learned a lot along the way. So if you've got any questions, please ask them in the comment box down below. Thanks a lot.